What's up, guys? Connor O'Hanlon here for another episode of the Greater Society podcast. And today we got a jam-packed show, as usual, as you guys all know. We're going to be talking about some craziness. As you know, Republicans love to throw out some craziness around election season. And some folks are claiming that Joe Biden wants to limit your beer intake. And over my cold, dead hands, right, guys? No. We'll go over why that's BS and talk a little bit more about, crazy culture wars that are going on. We'll also talk about my perspective on the post-debate outcomes from the GOP. DeSantis, Vivek, Ramaswamy, guys, remember, it rhymes with cake. And then we will talk about local far-right candidate funded by her husband, I should say, Paul Martino, RT Martino, who is running here in Central Bucks School Board, who is an absolute nightmare, and we cannot let them get on the school board. But before all that, we have some good to discuss and interview with, and I will transition over right now, Aftyn. That's how you pronounce it, right? I never even asked you how to pronounce your name correctly. Aftyn Behn.
Behn, but Behn. So close.
Who is running in Tennessee. This is the first candidate that we have had on the program who's running for the equivalent of what is the state house in Tennessee, for us folks in Pennsylvania. So Aftyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So obviously you can tell that you are in the middle of campaigning because you are in your car, you are running around. So before we dive into the specifics of your race, tell people a little bit about your background in day job, your work, what got you to this point.
Sure. So I grew up in East Tennessee, and I spent about 10 years in Austin, where I got my undergrad and graduate degree. And I was working abroad when Trump was elected. I just finished my master's degree in social work and public policy. And I couldn't believe that Tennessee showed up in droves to vote for former president, now indicted, Trump. And so I decided to move back, and I'll never forget, I took my parents out to eat in Knoxville and said, I want to get involved in Tennessee politics. And my mom started sobbing so loudly that we had to leave the restaurant. And that was about 7 years ago. And so I've held a few positions with nonprofits in Tennessee, as well as political organizations at the national level. I worked at Indivisible for 3 years. And now I work for a small outfit called ruralorganizing.org, and we support progressive rural voters all across the country. But in April, during the Tennessee 3 expulsions, I helped to organize a lot of the rallies and the events, and I had a bit of a snapped moment at one of the protests, and I realized that as a progressive in Tennessee, I couldn't ask another person to run for office if I wasn't willing to do it myself. So I decided to run for office, and my legislator unfortunately passed away in June, which forced a special election. And it is a Democratic majority district. And so I won my primary on August 3rd. I have a general election September 14th against a Republican, but it is a Democratic district. And so I'll be heading to the legislature. Hopefully I'll be sworn in mid-September, and I will be there for the next session.
Awesome. So sorry, I messed up your name while you were doing this. I don't know why. I was trying to adjust your picture, but change your name. So you turned into PA Attorney General candidate Eugene D. Pascal. So
I love him. I've actually been on a call with him. So wonderful.
Well, you're following him up on the program. So, but I was laughing because when you talked about Trump, I always introduce him now as the 4 times indicted, twice impeached, failed former president. That's the way that we identify him on the program now. So, tell me a little bit about your work in rural organizing, in like what states have you touched, and like what impact has the organization been able to make?
Yeah, I love that question. So I got my start when in 2017, when Trump came after the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid. I was out in rural communities talking about the benefits of these programs. And I met a lot of rural folks in Tennessee. And then when I was hired at Indivisible, I ended up having Kentucky and Tennessee. And so I was out in the hollers of Eastern Kentucky canvassing for Governor Beshear in 2019. And then, I realized that a lot of rural progressives across the country aren't being engaged and they don't have a seat at the table. And so a large part of my career post-Trump or during Trump has been to elbow, create space for a lot of rural leaders across the country that are dictating strategy and policy in ways that impact them.
Awesome. So before we go into like the specifics of like your race in this district, tell me about the district. So because a lot of the viewers are maybe not familiar with Tennessee. I've never been to Nashville. I've been to Chattanooga, but that's about it. So tell people about your district and like what's it like, what's it look like, who lives there, etc.
So I'm a little biased, but I think I have the best district in Tennessee. I have all of downtown Nashville, literally all of it,
Wow.
Broadway, the stadiums, all of it, plus East Nashville and Madison, where a lot of country music artists live, and then a few auxiliary areas in terms of a neighborhood called Donison. And so it's really concentrated in downtown Nashville, as well as kind of the spiraling neighborhoods outwards. I love the district. I think it's very progressive. It's a lot of voters who care about the overreach of the state, who care about bad deals that the Republican supermajority is shoving down our throats, who care about trans kids and trans healthcare, who care about abortion access. And so I ran on a unapologetically progressive campaign and an anti corporate boondoggle campaign. And so in Nashville, we've been given a lot of bad deals by the state, and my constituency and the voters said, we're done with that. We want to know what good deals look like. So it is a very white district. And so I also ran on using its privilege and power in terms of being an all white, very educated district to lobby and support other districts across the state, as well as other constituencies. And so I'm really excited to be in this position to not only be a voice for progressive Nashville with, this onslaught of kind of far right activity at the state and national level, and to be in community with a lot of people who helped get me here.
So when it comes to what's going on in Tennessee, what are the major issues in the state level? And we'll get to the opponent in a sec, but what more broadly? And I've covered the what happened with the Tennessee 3, I believe that's the naming of it, right? So, but the Justins, the two Justins, right? So that feels like forever ago, but it really wasn't. What is going on, and like what are the major issues that are going on? Like you said, the supermajority in the state house. So lay it out for us. What's going on there?
Well, it depends who you ask. If you ask the Republican supermajority, kids are defecating in litter boxes in their public school systems, and our trans community have AR-15s, and they're vigilantes. These are just issues that don't exist. I mean, what I hear is that families with trans kids can't receive gender affirming care for their children. I hear of women my age who are trying to conceive but are terrified of getting pregnant and having to deal with reproductive issues in state where they could be criminally prosecuted. I mean, we are dealing with in a Republican supermajority where perennially we've conducted polling asking if your life has improved in the past 10 years. And overwhelmingly, people have said no. And so we're just seeing we have the most regressive sales tax in the country. We don't have a state income tax. And so our poor and low income folks end up paying, bearing the brunt end of these bills. They're giving out corporate handouts to billionaires in terms of our Titan Stadium deal. For those listeners who don't know, we recently, the state said we're going to give the Titans family and the Titans the largest taxpayer funded stadium in U.S. history, totaling $1.2 billion of taxpayer money. And so we're just dealing with these compounded crises and issues that are really, at the forefront of voters' minds.
Yeah, and for those who are not aware, the Tennessee Titans are not very good. So,
Right.
I'm saying that as a New York Giants fan, but I live in Bucks County. Most of the people here are Eagles fans, so you know, for what that's worth. Let's take a look at your opponent, shall
Oh
we?
God.
Um, so his name is David Hooven. Am I correct?
Yeah. David, as he introduced himself, David moving with Hooven.
David moving with Hooven. Okay, whatever that is, right? So, I guess I'll let you talk about him. What is his deal, and why are you running against him?
So I want to preface this with I had a wonderful interaction with him early on at a chamber event, where we were both invited to speak. And I said, I introduced myself and I said, if I win my primary, we'll be going up against each other in the general. And I said, how's the campaign been going? And he said, well, he's like, there's just not enough stages where I can talk about the benefits of ivermectin.
No.
And I said, well, my friend, my man, now is your time. Now is your time. So that was early on in the campaign. And then when I won my primary, it came out a Newsweek article. He was featured in national news because he is adhering to the Billy Graham / Mike Pence evangelical beliefs of not being alone in a room with a woman because of temptation. And so if you go to his website, he lists a lot of, God first, state second type rhetoric. But 2 points of interest is one, he's running against me, but he won't be in a room alone with me because I'm apparently too tempting. And the second is that he routinely mentions Washington, representing Nashville in Washington on his website. So I'm not quite sure that he knows he's running for a state house position in Nashville. I think he thinks he's running for Congress.
Has he run for Congress, or was that something he floated, and this is just him?
No, I just think he went all in, and this was the one race that was on the ballot, and he thinks he will be in Washington D.C. So stay tuned. Maybe he'll I don't know.
It's a interesting strategy, I suppose. So beyond what you listed out, what are some key issues? Let's just say you win, you get in there, and by some act of God, the Democrats become the majority. What would be a priority for you on day one to take action on?
So, for your listeners who haven't been following Tennessee politics, we just had a chaotic and deeply upsetting special session where, on the heels of the Covenant school shooting and all the activism and the Tennessee 3 expulsions, the governor called a special session to deal with gun safety. And what happened was literally nothing. They came, they met, and they did nothing. And they even threw out mothers who had been dealing and been victims of gun violence out of the committee rooms. So I think there is overwhelming interest in passing gun safety, meaningful gun control legislation. Unfortunately, I don't know, I think you have a more moderated state legislature, but in supermajority world,
we're barely better. We're barely better.
And to be honest, as a pro-democracy organizer, supermajorities on either spectrum aren't good, right? They're not good for consensus. They're not good for compromise. But in Tennessee, we don't even have enough Democrats to get bills out of committee. We don't have enough Democrats to call a quorum so that we can stop bad legislation. So a large part of my campaign was telling voters that I am the person that the caucus needs to get organized ahead of 2024 so that we can flip some state house seats. And so really, I mean, in terms of legislation, we're not going to be able to bring forth any meaningful legislation unless we break the supermajority. Now, in terms of the legislation that I said I would put forth, we are dealing with increasing state surveillance in Tennessee. I don't know if this is a thing in Pennsylvania, but just recently, the Attorney General of Tennessee requested medical records of our trans community from Vanderbilt, a private healthcare, company. And so they pulled medical records from our most vulnerable community, and they are basically building lists. And so I ran on my first slate of bills being to curb state surveillance in terms of what data and the state is collecting, how data is being shared across state lines, especially those that are seeking abortions across state lines, because that data is being shared and sold. And so I really think, especially in deeply southern states, we're seeing, with these Republican supermajorities, an increase in state surveillance, which libertarians aren't happy with either. So
I was about to say, this is supposed to be the party of small government.
Right.
And now they're just invading people's bodies and their medical
Yes.
records.
Yes.
And I'll say this, just because I'm dealing with some of it, not personally, but with candidates and with other people that I'm helping out with. There are people that are filing right to knows in our school district and then leaking medical information about directors and teachers and all this stuff. So it's not the same, but I understand. You call yourself a progressive? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to hit you with, I've never done this before, but I've also never had a candidate running specifically for a legislative seat on the show. I've had other candidates before, like Eugene is running for Attorney General. I've had State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta on the show, but he's running for Auditor General. So now I get to ask well, I guess that's not true. I had Ashley Ehouse, who was running for Congress in 2020. But I'm going to ask you kind of like not a checklist of like, do you agree with me because we're progressives, but just kind of like, let's just go like down the line on issues and just get your perspective on things. So healthcare, what is your position on healthcare?
Medicare for all. We're the only developed country that doesn't have a nationalized healthcare system.
Right answer. Minimum wage.
The minimum wage hasn't increased in years, and especially in Nashville. Like, I mean, right now, like 15 is almost too obtuse. Like, we need something more, like 20, 25.
What is the minimum wage in Tennessee?
Well, it depends if you're serving at a bar in downtown Broadway, of which it is $2.27.
For tipped wages, I would assume is what you mean. Yeah.
Yes, for tipped wages. Yeah, it's awful. But I think the bar right now is $17.50 if you're not including healthcare in your contract.
Okay. And that's in Nashville specifically?
Yes.
Okay. And what about for the whole state? Do you know that off the top of your head?
No, I don't, but that's probably something I should know.
Well, it's $7.25 here in Pennsylvania. So, just
I'm sure it's the same or less than that because we're a right to work state, and
yeah. Well, it's the federal is $7.25, so it might be tied with that. But yeah, I understand that you're representing Nashville, so no. Let's see. What about some specifics on maybe on gun control? I know like the issue about running maybe in a southern state or even something like Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is like the Wild West when it comes to guns for the most part, but like how would you address gun violence?
Well, just to say that I grew up in a family of hunters. I think I have one of the most taxidermied houses in East Tennessee with all sorts of critters. And my parents are gun owners. My mom has both my parents have guns. We've always had guns in the house. I just think that most gun owners in the state of Tennessee, as well as the overwhelmingly majority opinion, is that we need some type of gun control, whether that's safe storage laws. There's just, I think, especially in Tennessee, like we really need to look at the holistic approach to dealing with this, because these kind of one-off bills aren't going to tackle the entire issue of gun violence. And in Nashville, there are so many guns being stolen out of cars regularly, weekly. And it's, and even the police here in Nashville don't, they want gun control as well in terms of safe storage laws, et cetera. So, but I do think we need a federal assault weapon ban at the national level. Unfortunately, in Tennessee, things take a lot more time down here to get enacted. So
yeah, I understand. What would you do to protect the environment?
Yeah, so this one's a big deal, especially in Tennessee, where so when cities pass environmentally sound policies, the state says no, we're good. We're going to preempt that.
Yeah.
And so what we see is a lot of environmental degradation and pollution in Shelby County, where Black organizers and activists are pushing back, and the state says no. And so I think dumping of toxic waste in Black communities. Hopefully, I'll work with Representative Pearson in terms of dealing with this, as well as energy democracy is a big sticking point for me. I grew up in East Tennessee with the Tennessee Valley Authority that electrified a region in the 1920s and 1930s. I've been involved in campaigns to increase transparency within TVA, as well as ensuring that communities are autonomously, operating in terms of their energy. So like, how can we support more communities in building their local internet instead of relying on ISPs like Comcast and AT&T. So I know that's kind of peripherally associated with the environment, but energy democracy is a big platform policy of mine.
Absolutely. And obviously the environment is all encompassing in many ways. So it crosses over. Last one, I suppose, on my firing round here. How about education? Well, I know it's different, so every state's different. So I might be asking you a question that I don't know. I mean, Pennsylvania has its own issues, but because it's so divided up. But what would you do on education?
Yeah, so in Tennessee, there's a few. I think there's a lot of ways you can come at the issue of education. One is that we're seeing the far right, especially in Tennessee. I'm sure you have Moms of Liberty chapters in Pennsylvania as well.
Oh, yeah.
But the far right and the Christian nationalists in Tennessee are trying to dismantle public education through these culture war issues. And so I think, one on the front lines and politically speaking is to be strong, a strong voice for public education, for teachers, for school administrators that are fighting these so-and-so culture wars. The second issue, especially in Nashville, is that the state often, there's a school funding formula, so how much money schools are given in each district, in each county, and often Memphis and Nashville are at the bottom of that receiving end. And so I think in terms of my advocacy as a legislator, it will be to advocate for the Nashville Public School District, as well as stopping charter epidemic, but the interest in privatizing our public education system.
Awesome. Well, I always ask all of my guests what they would do, or sorry, what they would suggest or have read, or somebody that has inspired them to get involved and to do basically what you do. Or just maybe if it's a book that inspired you or whatever it might be. So is there something that stands out to you that says, you know what, this book or this person, for example, and I'm not putting this on you, but today is what would have been the 75th birthday of Fred Hampton, who a lot of people know that I talk about him a lot. But yes, so is there a book, person in your life, a historical figure that inspired you to get involved?
Yeah, I think in the spirit of Black radical imagination, a book that's transformed my life and has really enhanced my organizing skills is the book by Adrienne Marie Brown, Emergent Strategies. And so what she does is she takes the knowledge and the literature from Octavia Butler, and she applies it to an organizing skill set. And so a few of these mantras I hold deeply, like deep within my bones. One of which is, what you pay attention to grows. And trust the people and they become trustworthy. And she has about 7 or 8 of these that I deeply, I think I recall almost every day, especially at the legislature. I'm going to, take the book with me. But for anyone who is wanting to enhance their organizing skill set as well as deepen their imagination. And just as a side note, I think organizing in deeply red turfs like Tennessee, what I am continuously I think surprised at is the lack of radical imagination, because things are so dire. And so when I'm out organizing in rural communities in Tennessee and talking about what a world looks like without the word premiums or the word deductibles, right? It's hard for people to interpret and think about. So I'm always like, how do I bring more imagination into my work, and especially in a state where people lack a lot of optimism and hope and the will to imagine. So Emergent Strategies by Adrienne Marie Brown.
Awesome. Last question before I ask you to kind of plug everything. And
sure.
As one progressive to another, if you're elected, tell everybody what that would represent as being somebody that would become functionally the youngest. I'm not going to say it correctly. You tell everybody what it would mean. I'm 27, so I know that running for office, and when I ran for state rep, I was 25.
Wow.
What that would have represented had I won. Came close, but it didn't. So in your race, what would it represent if you win?
Sure. So there is a new article, a new study that came out that ranked Tennessee in the bottom, dead last in the country for female representation in the legislature. We have 99 legislators in the Tennessee House, 10 are women, and 2 are Democrats. So I would be adding one more to that too. But more importantly, in a state like Tennessee, Nashville has had 0 female representation. And so a large part of my race was highlighting the lack of representation in the state legislature. And when we have one of the strictest abortion bans in the country, how important it is that we do have young women at the legislature who are voicing opposition to these terrible bans and these egregious bills day in and day out. And so if elected, I will, when I'm elected,
yeah, you have to say when.
David Movin with Hooven. Once I beat David Movin with Hooven on September 14th, I will be the youngest woman serving in the Tennessee House, as well as the only woman in the Tennessee House representing Nashville. So it's really important, I think, on the campaign trail. I was just so oh my gosh, young women running up to me after they voted saying, I voted for you for the first time ever as an 18-year-old. And I think seeing this representation, seeing a young woman run for office and win, and to be an outspoken advocate for our issues is going to be a really big deal. And I hope it radicalizes so many women across the state of Tennessee.
How many seats are there in Nashville, by the way? Just like, how many times is it divided up?
So it's there's 11, I believe, 10 men, and I will be the only woman. So 11.
Well, more power to you. Best of luck. What day is the election? Are you November, like regular election day, or is it a special election day?
Yeah, it's a special election because the representative passed away. So my general is September 14th. And I'll have ways to plug in on my website, www.aftynbehn.com, as well as you can find me on Twitter. But I hope, a lot of the narrative coming out of Tennessee has been from the Tennessee Three. And I hope to really be part of their contingent in terms of pushing for progressive policies at the state legislature.
Yeah, hopefully you don't have to. They don't have to try to remove you from that position. But I hope that
They can try with
yeah,
my cold dead hands. Like
yeah,
they will try. No.
like my third beer. They're gonna try to get my third beer out of my. Yeah, that's. You're gonna be followed up by a crazy story. So I apologize for that. And just for your sake, just so we can compete a little bit, look up Central Bucks School Board and
Okay.
in Pennsylvania, and you will see how crazy our school boards are. So because we might be able to one up you on that front with our Moms for Liberty are they're pretty intense. So and they happen to control my alma mater. So yeah. So if you could find you on Twitter, website, I will throw it in the description
Great.
as well. Any parting words?
No, just thank you so much for what you're doing. And I do believe in a greater society for all of us. And I do feel like the tide is turning, especially in deeply red states. Like the resistance is here. And I think people can look to the South as goes the South goes so I was gonna mess it up. As goes the South, so goes the nation.
Well, thank you so much. And I guess if you win, you won't have to run until next year again.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I was gonna say because maybe New Jersey has it in the odd years when they have the state reps.
Got it.
So just checking. So we get you in there. You're there until 2024. Sounds
Yep.
good. All right. Aftyn Behn. I got it right that time. Thank you
Yes.
so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Have a wonderful night.
You
Bye,
too.
all.
Take care. All right, guys. Now, after I realized that I messed up my text, nobody mentioned that the text on the bottom of the screen was messed up. You guys are supposed to be my lookout for that stuff. I get criticized from you, Will. You're criticizing me all day in the chat, but you did not point out that the bottom was wrong. I want to pull this up. I want to, here we go. So, let me make sure this is the right video, because I did not save it, of course, because I'm a moron, but as I alluded to in the beginning of the program, right-wingers are losing their collective minds because Joe Biden, evil, Dark Brandon, wants to limit how many beers that I can have per week. Joe Biden, he only wants me to have 2 beers a week. No effing way. I gotta be chugging beer like I'm stone cold. Of course, that's not really what's happening. The same way that let me play the clip for you from Fox News, and it's been all over the place on Twitter and all over the yes, Jameer. It is hilarious. All over the place. Not just beer. He's trying to say any sort of alcohol. So if you're trying to get drunk off of just 2 drinks, you could probably do it. You could probably do it. 2 in a week. Will, you don't think Joe Biden knows what day it is? Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of old timers in the office, in different offices. That's why we got to elect young progressives, right? Here is Peter Doocy, who is Steve Doocy's son, on Fox News, asking the questions that really matter. And I'm gonna see this is probably blaring. Wants to play, and there's an ad, of course. So here's the Hyundai Elantra. I have no idea if this is a good car. It's obviously a very choppy ad. I'm hoping that I can maybe not sit here and watch it, but we'll see how much I can filibuster. Here is Peter Doocy son of Steve Doocy, asking the questions that really matter.
Does President Biden want to limit Americans to 2 beers a week?
Where is this coming from? Maybe I didn't miss you so much. Where is this coming from?
All right, well, Dr. George Koob, who is the director of the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, says the U.S. may soon follow Canada and recommend just 2 beers a week. How do you guys think that's going to go?
Let me tell you what I'm not going to get involved in.
What? Just 2 beers a week? Are you kidding me?
In that question right there, I have no idea. I've not seen the data. I cannot speak to this. I will leave it to the experts and not weigh in.
So if the experts say 2 beers a week, that's okay with
I will leave it to the experts.
Man, leave it to the experts? Well, what if the expert is just somebody that likes to drink a lot of beer? What if the expert is somebody that likes to get down? You know? They like to go out and party. Or Andrew WK or whatever the guy's name is. That song. This is so yeah, what Lindsay said is true. So then also Joe Biden did not say this. Yeah, because he didn't say this. The administration didn't say this. What they were putting out there is the potential or a recommendation based on what the experts say is the most beneficial for your health. Hashtag for your health. And Dave, I see your comment about giving any extra publicity to the Republican lies. I actually think that this one is so ridiculous. It is so funny and out there. I had to cover it because the lie that somehow, like, let's just role play this out, okay? Alcohol sales are a legit gigantic piece of the American economy, whether it's Anheuser-Busch or any other sort of American beer, or if it's imports, or if it's whatever. That's just beer. Then you talk about vodka, rum, gin, all these different types of alcohol, right? Bars. A lot of bars make the majority of their money from alcohol. So, if we are looking at limiting alcohol, why would we do this other than saying it's beneficial for people's health to not overconsume alcohol? Everything in moderation, fine. Maybe not literally everything in moderation, but things in moderation, fine. Alcohol, different, sugar, coffee. I abuse coffee, but, most of those things, right? If you were to limit alcohol to 3 beers, or two technically, 2 drinks, 2 beers, as Peter Doocy says, but 2 drinks in a week, does this mean that Joe Biden comes in, gun to my head, as the Republicans always like to say, says, "Look here, Jack, that 3rd Bud Light, that's coming with me"? No. He's not coming into your house to take it. He is not putting a gun to your head. He is not shoving his policies down my throat. No. It's a recommendation. A health recommendation that Biden didn't come up with himself. That Kamala didn't come up with herself. Kamala Harris is not going to come in and drop kick you off the top banister because you were going for a 3rd glass of wine. Bernie Sanders isn't coming in with the choke slam after you go for a 3rd shot. And yes, David, as you said, people do believe this crap, but that's also why it's fine to make fun of it. At the Republican debate, they kept saying Democrats support laws to allow abortions in the 39th week. This country is in absolute trouble because so many people because we have so many of these people. I agree, but with that being said, they also said that they're trying to get rid of gas-powered stoves, which is not the case. But it is also true, I'm saying this as someone with one, that gas-powered stoves can be an issue, especially for younger kids and their breathing, as I struggle to breathe for a second. It is also the case that the Surgeon General recommends that people don't smoke cigarettes. That doesn't mean that they're banned. It also means that there is look, I'll show you right here. It might say it on here. There is daily value in your caloric intake every single day. And they base caloric intake off of a 2,000 calorie diet for most people. Well, I'll tell you, as a 200-pound powerlifting-ish guy, right? Like somebody that likes to work out and from my muscles, right? If I ate 2,000 calories in a day, I'd be like a shriveled husk. But it's a recommendation for the average person. If Michael Phelps, when he was competing in the Olympics, he was eating 10,000 calories a day. If he had 2,000 calories, the man would be dead in the water. It's a recommendation. You can have 0 alcohol in a week, or you can have 1 drink every day, which would mean 7 drinks, which is more than the recommendation. You might be fine in both scenarios. You could absolutely abuse your body, and there's nobody, and I'm not recommending that, but you could abuse your body in a million different ways, and the government is not stopping you from doing it, but it is recommending that you do not do that. That's all that is. I'm sure that will that lie will be perpetuated on and on and on. But speaking of Republicans, let's dive into the I want to pull up, hold on. Polling. Yeah. Public. So we do this, it's seemingly every week, but I just thought it would be interesting. Pull this up as we talk about this. So, as you guys all know, as we talked about last week on the show, there was a Republican debate 1 week ago from today. And the big takeaway, other than the fact that Trump wasn't there, was the fact that DeSantis did not gain anything. In fact, as you will see here, Little Ron DeSanctimonious, he lost support after the debate. And as Will's pointing out, Vivek rhymes with cake. He gained. And Mike Pence had a slight tick up. And Nikki Haley had a slight tick up. But DeSanctimonious Meatball Ron going down. As you will see, I'll go back to, let's say, April 23rd. That was last Wednesday. You had Trump at, this is the average polls from 538. Remember that 538 is not doing the polls, they are aggregating the polls. 538 has Trump at 52% as of last Wednesday. DeSanctimonious at 15.2%. Ramaswamy at 9.7%. Haley at 3.4%. Pence at 4.3%. Christie at 3.3%. Scott at 3.6%. And then the rest. Now, if you go to today, Donald J. Trump, the tetradited dual impeached, one-time election loser, one-time election winner, but failed former president, has 50.3% of the vote. So he lost about, on the average, 2 to 3%. Little Ron went down from 15-ish to 14.8%. Ramaswamy going up to 9.2%, which is wait, in this poll, yeah, he goes up 2% from that. Now there are other polls that have bigger jumps, but Ramaswamy is up to 9.2%. Haley goes up to 5.6. Pence goes up to 4.4. Christie gains 0.3. And Tim Scott at 3%. There is the big takeaway is that Trump lost nothing, essentially nothing, from sitting out this debate. DeSantis gained nothing from performing in it. And I say performing in it by being in it, because he heavily underperformed. Ramaswamy gains what he needs to be competitive, and the rest just exists. Mike Pence was the overperformer in the actual debate, and he gained what, 1% after the debate? So for any of them to actually chip away from Donald J. Trump, Donald Jonathan Trump, they have to engage him and they have to actually fight with him, or Trump would have to keel over, and they'd probably have to replace DeSantis, because DeSantis would probably get obliterated, in my opinion, at this point. DeSantis is horrible, both as a progressive with my viewpoints and also as an actual campaigner. Every single time that there's a video of him, there's the video of him going like, and we will make something in America. It's like, dude, you didn't practice how to smile after your debate. Like, you can't even give your speech something powerful and then go, like, it's not like you got to go, like, it was painful watching DeSantis. Vivek, at least, despite being absolutely despicable on actual policy, was presentable. And a lot of, if you guys know your history, you will know that JFK whooped the crap out of Richard Nixon because of the first televised debate. Not solely because of that, but it is credited as one of the major reasons why JFK launched himself over Richard Nixon. And Will, it is not nearly as painful watching Biden as it is watching DeSantis. And I wouldn't even say it's painful to watch Trump. I find Trump entertaining. I just think he's a despicable human being and he shouldn't be president. He's entertaining though. I don't necessarily cringe or feel pain when I'm watching him. And I actually think Biden can hold himself well against Trump in a debate. And I don't think that DeSantis would. That's why I want to have Trump debate DeSantis. I want Trump in these debates. Now, I will also point out that if you just Google Vivek Ramaswamy in the wake of, and you'll see that at the bottom of the Chiron now that I fixed it. Thanks, Will. You didn't tell me to fix it, man. I have DeSantis versus Vivek. Why? Well, they're kind of just vying for second place, but I want to point out something that I haven't heard any criticism of, and I want to put it out there. Ron DeSantis was heralded as the answer to Trumpism post-Trump, basically. Like saying, what happens when Trump is gone? They were saying, DeSantis, this guy's got it going on. He's got Florida. He's got all this stuff. And while there are some pieces in, CNN, MSNBC, and like print media, online media, especially alternative media, there's a lot of critique of DeSantis. But in the mainstream media, DeSantis was treated as the darling of the right, the next person in line. He was kind of the Jeb Bush of 2024. But there was very rarely substantive pinning of his horrible policies in corporate media, mainstream media. Compare that to Vivek Ramaswamy, who, again, I vehemently disagree with. I vehemently disagree with both of them, and I think neither of them should be anywhere near a position of power, let alone the presidency. But Ramaswamy has been slammed by the corporate media, unlike DeSantis, because DeSantis is Republican classic in the sense that he wears a nice little suit and he has his little get up and he kind of gets to walk around and be like, yeah, I'm the governor from Florida and we do it here and we going after the woke and I'm going after it like this. But Vivek Ramaswamy comes out and says, yeah, you guys are all bought and paid for and I'm anti-establishment and I disagree with all of you guys and you guys are getting supports by super PACs and all, which is true. Like, he's not wrong. When he says, when Vivek said, that's the truest thing he said when he was on the stage. All of you are bought and paid for. On that stage, absolutely true. That was 100% a fact. But he gets slammed in corporate media. Because guess what? Whether you think this or not, and I would tend to think that this is not true, Vivek Ramaswamy would definitely be pro-corporate. But DeSantis is the reliably pro-corporate other than Disney, but then even Disney rocked his shit. And then they were like, DeSantis like, Disney, can you please don't sue me, please? Please? Because he's getting spanked publicly. Like, why? How stupid do you have to be to pick a fight with, like, honestly, a fight with Disney about, like, cultural crap? Like, you're going to fight what, if not the largest, one of the largest media outlets in the world, in the history of the world, that's a tone setter for culture, especially in America. You're going to go after them because you are mad. Because they don't like my don't say gay bill. Yeah, dude. You're a fascist. But the corporate media will never point out all the specifics of it. Oh, remember when DeSantis was literally shipping? And I am using these, like, it is not loaded terms. He was lying to migrants, putting them on buses, and quite literally shipping them from one place to another and just dropping them off. Oh, you want a job? You want access to this American economy, the American dream? Oh, come with me. We're going to put you on a bus. We're going to send you to New York City, and we're just going to drop you off. Oh, interesting. And nobody talks about that anymore. Nobody talks about the fact that DeSantis, literally, it's basically, in a form, a way of trafficking human beings from one place to another just to get rid of them. Good luck, buddy. Good luck. Unlike the states like Texas that receive federal funds to address the issue of migrants coming across the border and then bringing them to the places that are designated for them so that they have a place to live, so that they have the services necessary. Now, of course, the New York government had to respond, and all the different governments that DeSantis and Greg Abbott were sending all these people to were able to respond. But do you even hear a peep about this? Has there ever even been a lawsuit about this? They were shipping dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of buses full of people that were just looking for a better life. And does corporate media say a peep anymore? They said it like once or twice. I remember when it was happening. They didn't say it was like they didn't even mention it like it was a bad thing. And yeah, cities all the time, blue cities have to deal with migrants all the time. That's not the point. The point is when you are a border state, like Texas, like Oklahoma, like California even, in certain places they are given funding to take care of the issues that are unique to migrant populations. They are coordinated with the Department of Human Services. They coordinate with ICE, whatever, however you like that or not. They are not just like thrown to the wind. Go hang out with the wolves, guys. What has Biden done? On what? Like, you're not even informed on what's happening at the border if you think that Biden is just letting people in. All this is to point out is, no, I'm not high. I might have to be if I was engaging with you. And hey, Jeff, the other side of information, guys, go check out that other side of information. Sunday nights, I believe, still on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. No, the VP is not in charge of the border. The border is run by the DHS. The president has authority over the DHS. ICE, Customs and Border Patrol. All those people have control over the border. That's how that happens. It's besides the point at this point. All I'm saying is DeSantis, who has done heinous things in his career as governor, compared to Vivek Ramaswamy, who just has terrible policies, but is anti-establishment, running as an anti-establishment candidate. One is lauded as the future of the Republican primary. I mean, the Republican Party. Oh, DeSantis, he is the next big Republican superstar. Vivek Ramaswamy, we don't mind burying him. We don't mind crapping on him in the corporate media, which is fine. If you're gonna dunk on candidates, that's fine. But to ignore the fact that DeSantis is treated with kid gloves, you'd have to be blind. And look, he is. When we go back to January, DeSantis was 2 points away from Trump. In 9 months, his support got cut in more than half. That's a loser. That's a loser. In chat, state governments of California and New York are looking to sue Abbott and DeSantis. The border states are going to be begging for immigrants to help rebuild them after these hurricanes. Maybe that might be the case. I hope they do sue them. We got asylum seekers have to go to border of entry. Yeah, asylum seekers do have to go through the border to get asylum status. Now, we've gone over this, Will, I think a few times, but we can either agree that that's how you have to do it, and when people do it, they're technically breaking the law, but you don't want to change that law, and you don't want to support asylum seekers, so what do you want to do? I agree that should be changed, but that's the policy that we have now. And if that's the policy that we have now, then it shouldn't be technically breaking the law. I mean, it's kind of paradoxical. Yes. Why didn't the Republicans pass? I'll get off of it. Why didn't the Republicans pass immigration reform when they control the government? Because they don't care. Yeah. Fund, as Jeff says, fund the national and internationally recognized processes for asylum review. We agree. It's Will. I think you just agreed with a bunch of a chat full of progressives. I think you did. Good on you. Unlike my boy, guys, I have to regrettably inform you that I was supposed to have a debate this week. My schedule somehow is more open than my boy Chrissy, who does not want to come on the program. He just wants to email me about his policies and doesn't want to talk about them in public. He just wants to email me and debate me in my email. Because he hates trans people so much that he wants to just email me about it all day. And he was upset that I can afford to play golf. Oh, yeah. Mickey, I don't care. I'm saying it. At least Will, at least, you know what, Will? I respect you, man. I assume you're a man. I don't know. Maybe I'm assuming a gender. Maybe I'm wrong. Uh, uh, and if he doesn't hate trans people, he can come and talk to me about it. But seems like he's a little too triggered because the right wing, they love to talk a big game when they're behind a keyboard, but you offer them the platform, then they don't want to come and talk. I don't know why. Last thing. On tonight's show. Where are my bookmarks? Dude, Twitter is an absolute shit show. They change everything. Oh, for some, I will pull it up. Okay. Well, you don't have to respect me, my guy. That's fine. You wouldn't be the first person. And yes, it was Reagan that granted blanket immunity and citizenship to millions of immigrants. It's almost like he was the governor of California. He understands that immigrants are important as a population to the United States. It's almost like the United States is supposed to be a boiling pot. It's almost like that's the intent. And Will, don't get mad at me, man. It might be a small platform, but it is a platform. I do have people engaging with me right now. Do I not? Here we have, this is Broad and Liberty, which is just a right-wing outlet here in Bucks County / Philadelphia area. And here we have RT Martino, which I personally have never met. Although I engage with the school board, I engage with guys, this might surprise you, but I am a progressive Democrat, and I actually believe that you should not vote for RT, and I will tell you why. I believe that you should vote for Rick Herring, who I would love to have on the program in the upcoming weeks, and try to figure out what we can do to make sure that he wins. But this outlet is a right-wing outlet, be nice, that is putting out a puff piece about RT. And okay, she is a software developer, etc. Good on her. Her husband, though, of course, remember, is Paul Martino, who I have invited on the program. Maybe he hasn't seen it. I don't know. And he is funding what seems like dozens of far-right candidates, like the Central Bucks Forward slate, that is running on issues of, well, I should say, they already kind of have banned pride flags, banning books. We'll go over it in this response. But I just wanted to talk about, there's one. Okay. Here we go. This part right here, and I'm going to zoom in for those who are able to watch. Artie was asked, why are you running for school board? She says, I'm running because I believe that academics and not politics, of course, remember, guys, that everything on some level is political. Everything that policy touches, includes schools, has some touch of politics. Now, she might mean it shouldn't be partisan. We might be able to agree on that. But everything that includes policy includes politics on some level. And let me just read the rest of this, and then we'll, because I'm gonna keep stopping every couple seconds here. She says, I believe that academics and not politics should be in charge of shaping the minds and values of our young children. Okay. Social media and school closures. Okay, that seems a little bit of a throwback, but okay. Have damaged our children's desire to learn. Might be the case. Teachers tell us they have trouble getting kids engaged. True. That's always been a problem, but true. We need to work together to fix this. I agree. She says she is running for school board because I believe we need to focus on academics for all the kids with parents as partners. Now, of course, they say all of the kids, yet they don't want to provide a space that makes certain kids feel safe. Interesting. They don't want certain kids to feel welcome because, they're gay. Or because they're transgender. I'm gonna continue to go off on this tangent here, but I went to these schools. And to be honest with you, if you jumped back 10 years when I was a junior in 2013, the schools back then, as an entity, were more supportive of gay and trans kids than the schools are today. That doesn't mean the teachers, but the entities of the schools, which is run by the school board, because in the last 2 years, it has become an outrageous attack on gay and trans kids. If we continue, she says, our opponents have created a false narrative. Wrong. It's true narrative, but I will continue reading her statement. I will debunk after. That the Central Bucks forward, her and all her far-right buddies, team is causing chaos. Well, technically, some of them are causing chaos. Some of the followers are causing chaos. The people that wrote this article, the people at the Delaware Valley Journal, the people that show up to the school board map discussion with maps that don't take into consideration partisan gerrymandering, because if you take into consideration partisan gerrymandering, then you are somehow just being fair. But that's actually not in line with how the Constitution works in Pennsylvania. You have to consider, on some level, partisan gerrymandering, because otherwise it would be an illegal map. So the chaos piece is largely not necessarily just from the candidates. It's actually from the school board directors themselves. And the candidates amplify it. And the candidates are trying to perpetuate a larger majority. It is 6-3 right now. So she says that there's a false narrative of banning books. They quite literally passed, and I believe it is 109.2, if I'm recalling it correctly off the top of my head, which I might not be. That might be another policy that they passed that bans books. Quite literally. So it's not a blanket ban. It's not, Fahrenheit 451. They're not rounding up all the books and burning them. But books that have certain topics, books that are written by certain types of authors that maybe just so happen to be LGBTQ+, or people of color, well, we got to remove some of those books. God forbid. God forbid. And of course, they lie. And they say that they show, here's genderqueer. Look at genderqueer. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. Without recognizing the fact that it was in one high school and it was age restricted for seniors and juniors. So whether you like it or not is besides the fact. Material to engage with characters to see each other with, or see themselves in, right? That are deemed age appropriate by librarians, professionals, is what we should have our guides based on. It's almost like if you were writing tax code, you would want to talk to a accountant. Or if you wanted to get a medical diagnosis, you would talk to a doctor. Now, librarians might be wrong too. So maybe there is a discussion on what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. But that doesn't mean that you should be banning books, writing a policy to ban books across the board. Because guess what? That is not the only book that they have tried to ban, and it's not the only book that they have successfully banned. It will not be the last book they successfully ban. Oh, and they're not against LGBTQ kids, but they banned pride flags, fired a teacher that was supporting kids, trans kids. In fact, we had the kids that they were talking about on the program. Kids are quite literally leaving the school. Parents are moving their kids out of the schools because they do not feel safe and welcome in the Central Bucks school district. And that is not just like, oh, one or two kids. I have people that tell me that. They know, because I'm the chairman of the Democratic Party. They come to me and they say, Connor, we have to move. I know I went there, my kids went there, blah, blah, blah. My oldest son, right? My oldest son went there, but you know, little Jimmy doesn't want to go there anymore. He doesn't feel safe. I have to say, I don't talk about him. I'm talking about Artie's article here, but Tony Arjona, who's running in where I live, is extremely right-wing. And he might not like this if he ever sees this, right? But one, he's got very little chance. It's just the district that he's running in. But also, like, I've heard his takes on abortion. I've heard his takes on what functions as bodily autonomy. I've heard him talk about LGBTQ plus people. He used to listen to Rush Limbaugh at the office out loud. And that's amongst all the other stuff. Okay? She says, we aren't against anyone. We are for education. Many good people have been fooled. Anybody that votes for her has been fooled. This negative narrative is distracting from learning laws and sowing negativity and division. The negativity and division is adding to the anxiety rampant of students. Now, of course, anxiety has been ticking up in young people for a long time due to the pressures of what might sound oversimplifying, but the pressures of capitalism in a modern society, the pressures from social media that Artie alludes to, but doesn't have like a necessarily suggestion on. And maybe if she did, we might actually agree on something. Like TikTok, Instagram, all these things do have negative impacts on body image, bullying, etc. I'm curious about, they don't have, remember a couple of weeks or months ago at this point, there was somebody who brought a firearm to the school board meetings who was going under the alias Frank Castle. I wonder which party he supports. Frank Castle being the alias of the Punisher. Do you care about learning loss? Actually, and in fact, there was a recent study. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. I have to figure out what to look up. Here it is. This is from the AMA. I think it's the American Medical Association. So this data shows that there are, and I have to pull up the specifics here if I can find it quickly. Here we go. Although children, this is for COVID-19. Although younger children had lower viral loads than teens and adults, they were most likely to transmit COVID-19 in their household. Quote, to me, it validates the concept that kids are great little vectors, said Johnson. Doctors, I believe. This may be because younger children tend to hug people more, whereas teens are likelier to keep to themselves, he speculated. At least 75% of the children who acquired COVID-19 showed no symptoms. This suggests they unknowingly had virus in their noses, but may have been spreading it to the others. Schools ranked the highest as public sources of exposure compared with health clinics and grocery stores. Looking back, closing schools was probably an effective way of cutting SARS-CoV-2 transmission prior to the widespread availability of safe and effective vaccines, Johnson said. That's a key piece of information for policymakers to keep in mind when another pandemic comes along. So, while we can agree that shutting schools down may have had a negative effect on some students, we can agree on that. We should probably be developing processes and contingency plans for the potential of any sort of future pandemic, because that almost seems inevitable at some point now. But also, it's saying that schools prior to the vaccines were actually one of the largest potential vectors of transmission of COVID-19 from one person to a kid, from a kid to a parent, and then that leads to one of potentially the 1 million+ deaths in America from COVID-19. So, while the right-wing school board candidates want to just be like, they remember that they didn't want any masking in the schools. We couldn't just have kids go to schools wearing masks. Oh God, no. So, okay, we can't just say wear a mask in school, so we'll just open up the schools. How many people had to get sick because of that? In 2020 and 2021, when they reopened the schools in 2021, how many people had to get sick because of that? How many this is a legitimate question. How many people is it okay for them to have died to say we don't need people to wear masks in school? It's one thing now, okay? It's one thing now, which the same people don't want vaccinations. Remember, the same people say you can't make our kids get vaccinated. They get all other vaccines. You know, to go in the military, I'm not taking the COVID vaccine. I only take 9 other vaccines. Like, you know what's in those vaccines. And these ones are proven to be safe. It's a joke. These candidates are a joke. And frankly, the CB Neighbors United slate of candidates, the Democratic candidates, are running on putting education first, parents being involved, but also, which you see in these responses, that the Neighbors United candidates want teachers to have a say and support staff to have a say, and just other workers that are in the like custodian workers, people that are in the schools, coaches, all the etc. To be a collaborative effort, not to be, well, this one parent has a problem with this one book, so we're gonna ban all these books. Well, in fact, the one parent actually had a way to make sure that their kid didn't read that book. Why didn't we just stick with that policy? Why did we make policy that's exclusionary and makes other people feel bad and feel not welcome? In fact, feels threatened. Why would we do that? How is that effective leadership? All the while, the same school board gave the superintendent a $90,000 raise, 40%. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never gotten a 40% raise in my life. It is 6-3 majority. We can win this seat. This seat is an open seat. If you are engaged, want to check out, if you live in Tennessee, You want to impact policy on a local level in a way that is going to protect kids, that is going to why am I drawing a blank here? Improve, education. That is going to keep property values up because guess what? Education is what drives the homing values or the housing values in a lot of places. Then you should vote for the Democrats in this election. You should donate and you should check out Rick Herring, who's running against RT Martino. And you should look up Paul Martino and see that he is funding far-right extremists throughout Pennsylvania. It's funny, the guy that made his money from deadly sins, greed, gambling, now he's backing the far, far, far right because one, he's a culture warrior, and two, because he knows that the far right is going to cut taxes for him, put money in his pockets. Now, people always say, Connor, you can't have a say. You don't have any kids in the school. Well, one, I went to these schools, and two, I'm a taxpayer, so I absolutely do have a say in this. Let's check out before I move on or end the program. Chat's popping off. Yippee. School boards have become another front in the Republican attempt to take control of the country as they are starting to lose every place else. Well, that in fact is why that the Republicans in the school district here in Bucks County, in Central Bucks, tried to gerrymander a map that would guarantee a 6-3 majority in perpetuity. And we stopped that. And we will stop that. And it is in court right now. So it is currently stopped. We'll see if our map, which is a fair map, not a Democratic gerrymander, which the far right loves to lie about, we'll see about it. Republicans need to stop interfering and trying to control everyone's lives. Let teachers and librarians do their jobs. They are professionals and we're educated to do their jobs. Yes, agree. And similar to what Jeff's saying, so much for the party of small government and personal accountability or responsibility. That's what I said earlier in our interview about abortion too. In Tennessee, super strict restrictions on abortion. TB in chat says, in many cases, schools themselves were allowed to define what constituted an in-school transmission. So if they're using health department numbers, they're massively skewed down. I said in many, what I actually should have said, it was literally every public school district in Pennsylvania. So I assume you're saying they're skewing them down for a specific reason. I would have to imagine so. I don't understand necessarily the incentive to skew them down other than to say we should just be open. But that could be the case. Will asks, you still think masks work? I think masks work. Yes. They're proven to work. Yes, it was a political move to stick the school board with a right-wing superintendent. Now remember that if the majority is to change, they can review those contracts. Make sure to tell, Lindsay says, make sure to tell all of your medical professionals to stop wearing masks then. Yeah, don't wear masks during surgery. If you have an open wound, if you have somebody, like, let's just say I didn't have Achilles surgery, I had chest surgery. Now, if I had a doctor that didn't have a mask on, their saliva would be going into my chest cavity. Now, a lot of Republicans don't want to admit or acknowledge the fact that masks may not be as effective. N95 masks are somewhat effective in preventing you getting sick, but are more effective in you preventing spread because your viral load, as is explained in this study, viral load is reduced because it gets caught in the mask. And if you have a lower viral load, you are less likely to get sick, or if you have a lower viral load, you are less likely to get severely sick. The concentration of the viral load matters as well. see. Got a lot going on about masks, wheels popping off. Yes, Jeff, I will come on the show. I will come on. Guys, if you are new to the show or if you are a fan of my show and you have not checked it out, go check out that other side of information. And yes, Jeff, I will come on soon. My life is quite hectic. Oh yeah, so saying numbers are low to keep schools open. Yes, that seems to be the way to do it. Yeah, Lindsay's right. Medical University, CDC, WHO, etc. I mean, the AMA just showing this study. Like this study that I talked about just came out. I mean, it came out, or sorry, no, this one came out in January, but there was another one that was more recent. So this is January 2023. There was one that was even more recent, but that was a quick Google search. So, yeah, Google is your friend, Will. I hope just I am hopeful. I'm just gonna ignore I'm gonna ignore everything in chat for right now because I think we're longer than normal anyway. I want to say this because I'm hopeful. I've heard rumors that they are trying to combine the yearly flu vaccine with the a COVID boost, which I think would be amazing, and I think it would be a technological feat and something that we should, as Americans, be proud of, that these vaccines came out of America. We want to be patriots. Say, we made these. Our country led the way on this with government-funded research, by the way. Now, we can disagree on the fact that it should be free. We should own the copyright. Even I had a discussion with my friend AJ from class about how copyright ownership from the government should be kind of more of a widespread thing. Like the DoD, Department of Defense, should own copyrights or patents for designs and blueprints of like planes, but they don't. Well, whether you agree with the building of planes or not, we should own the patents for them. And, we enable people to make them. But yeah, this is it's the same thing with the vaccines, but we should be proud as patriots that we, United States, made them. Yeah, a quick Google search will do that. Biggest study on masking found that masks are ineffective when used improperly, but not in general. Yes, that is true. Yeah, because if you have the mask down here, you're still breathing in through your nose, and the viral load can go. My understanding is that if you get the viral load through your nose, it's worse. It's potentially worse. Now, I mean, I think if someone maybe spit in your mouth which I guess is possible, no judgment, I suppose. Then yeah, you could get sick either way. But if you have a mask that covers your nose and your mouth, one, it prevents you spreading it to other people. Like, I think that level of we should acknowledge the fact that if you're sick, we should embrace this as a country. You should wear a mask, and it helps if you have to go to work, right? Whole other issue, the fact that people have to go to work in this country sick, but that's a bridge we'll cross another time. You should wear a mask to protect others. There are other people that wear N95 or KN95 masks that are proven to be effective in preventing COVID. Cloth masks are not as effective, but still are more effective than nothing. Okay. Just so we can settle this debate, just for today at least. N95 and KN95 masks were found to be 48% more effective than surgical or cloth masks, according to a CDC study. Wearing a N95 or KN95 mask reduced the odds of testing positive for SARS-CoV-2 by 83%. Here's the numbers for you, Will. N95 masks filter up to 95% of particles in the air when approved. And proper fit. So that goes to what CB was saying in the chat. Saying there is no, I mean, I can't prove to you that this is peer reviewed. I don't know. This is from the CDC, man. I don't know what else to tell you. That is all I have for you. We covered quite the variety, triggered quite a few right-wingers apparently. Will, you're not alone, man. You're not alone, buddy. I'm glad that, you know what? Can we all, I want to collectively give, and for those listening, you can clap in your in whatever, if you're driving, you can clap. If you're on the train or listening to this as you get ready for work, I want to applaud Will for showing up for, I believe, the third show in a row, the third week in a row. I can applaud that you are making my show more engaging, and while I disagree with you, this is America. You have every right to have those opinions, no matter how much I disagree with you. And I hope that someday you will come over a bona fide progressive just like the rest of us. But until then, you can still hang out in the chat and make sure that you hit the subscribe button. You probably have, Will. But if you have not, if you are new to the program, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up. You can follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Greater Society Media. You can follow me on Twitter/X at Con O'Hanlon. You can support the show at patreon.com/Greater Society Media. You can listen to the program already on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to go check out the CB Neighbors United candidates, because they're the candidates that actually really give a damn about the kids and our schools and our teachers and the support staff and our collective community. So, with all that being said, I will see you all next week, unless some circumstance changes and there is a pop-up debate. Be sure to hit the bell button down below that will notify you when we go live, just in case. So, until next time, everybody, stay safe. Peace.